Today we have a BMW with a no start. It cranks but do not start. This one is a 325i E46 2002 model. Now let's have a look at what's going on. So basically I'm going to try to start the car. You can hear it. It cranks, no problem, but does not start. Now, without going too further, I already think I know what's wrong with the car because I had experience with a BMW a few years ago. Same problem. So how I know is if you look on the dash when you turn the ignition on, right? Try again. So if you look on the dash when you turn the ignition on, all you see is this display with the kilometers, and the airbag light just went out, and the airbag light comes on, but none of the lights comes on the dash. As in no engine lights, no traction control light, nothing. Only a couple of lights stays on, usually the airbag light and just the kilometer display. I think I know what's wrong with the car. Now I'm not gonna go into doing a lot of testing how I got to it, but I'll just tell you a short story what happened. We had a car, it's actually at my friend's shop. We had a car come in pretty much, I think it's about 2 years ago or something. So he had a car coming in his shop with a no start, the exact same symptom. It cranks but do not start. Now that car's been to that many different mechanics and no one could figure it out. The car sat on some mechanic shop for like 8 months, the other mechanic shop for like another 7 months. Basically the car wasn't running, car didn't start for 2 years, no one could figure it out. And it also went to the BMW specialist, it also went to the BMW dealer, and no one could figure out what's wrong with it. So the customer finally brought it to my friend's shop, and my friend had it for many months too, and he was struggling to get it done. So he asked me to come and help him. Basically I went there, and long story short, between him and me, it took us I think nearly 7 hours to figure out what was wrong with it. Now if you put a scan tool, the scan tool won't even talk to the car. There will be no communication. A lot of the module will not talk to you. You may have 1 or 2 modules talk to you, but most of the module, especially engine computer, will not talk to the scan tool. And when you turn the key on, like I saw you, just the display comes on. I got my ignition on actually right now, and airbag light sometimes comes on, I think as well. And sometimes you will say on a newer BMW, I don't know about like the new 2010 and up model, but I know early 2000s all BMW had the, I think, same problem. It's a very common problem. BMW X5, that was the car. My friend was struggling to fix it, but we together worked on it, and we did figure it out. But this one's a 325i, but a lot of BMW product early 2000s used the same design part, which I'm going to show you what it is. So on some model, especially that X5, it also came coming up with the file safe, something on the dash, file safe, something I forgot, and it was communicating with the computer, but most of the time it wasn't communicating with the engine computer ECU. And this one I'm not even gonna bother putting scan tool to check if it's talking or not talking, because I think I already know what's wrong with the car. So I'm gonna take you there. So what I think is wrong with the car is the ignition switch for the key, ignition key. In order to get to it, I'm gonna have to pull this bottom cover off, and then I'll show you what's in there, and we'll do some testing for you. Basically, once you take this cover off from the bottom and behind the ignition switch, so that's your ignition electricals there, ignition switch. Now we're going to do a couple of testing there, so I'll just zoom that in for you a little bit. So don't worry about this small wires, just these thick wires. This is the ignition switch right here, so this is a plug. This plug will come off if you pull it out, and that's your ignition switch there. Nothing wrong with the plug, the problem is in the ignition switch. But we can do our testing right here on this wire. So we got black, green at the bottom. We got red with the green, and another red, I can't see the color, red with the black, I think, behind that red color. And at the top we got a violet wire. So this one's got 5 wires. So now with the ignition off, you're gonna see 2 powers, and when you turn the 2 powers on this middle red 2 wires, and when you turn the ignition on, you're gonna have power on the purple at the top, and purple violet at the top, and the green. You're gonna have power, and this black one at the bottom is for your starting circuit. So when you crank it for the starter motor, this will have 12 volts. So let's get our meter or test light. Right, we got a battery test light connected to a battery negative. We're gonna look for power. Right now I'll turn the ignition off, keys off, ignition is off. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna see power on this red wire, as you can see, and there's another red wire behind it. It's hard to see on the camera, but I promise you there's a red wire there. So that's another power. I'll just zoom that out a little bit. So that's second red wire there, got a power there, and power on that red wire. So 2 middle red wires has the power, and now we're gonna look for powers on the other ones. You're not gonna see it because the ignition is off. Just go and just put a test light on all the pins. We're not gonna see it. Right now, easy demonstration, I'm just gonna use my probe oscilloscope. So like I said, when we have the ignition on, you're gonna need to see power on this and that. So before that, we know this black wire, like I explained to you, is for starting circuit. The car is cranking, the starter motor is working. So let's see if we got the power and if I'm telling everything true here. So I'm just gonna touch my test light on that wire there. It's really hard to get the right angle, but anyway, I got my test light. Now we're gonna trying to crank this engine. Yeah, it's cranking. As long as I hold the key on crank position, the test light is lighting up. So that black one is our cranking circuit. Now we got the violet and the green one, so this should be our ignition on power feed. So now turn the ignition on. My dash is still staying same, no engine lights, nothing's coming up. So we're gonna test our green. And we got nothing on the test light. Now I'll take it to the violet, the top wire, and touch it and see if there's a 12 volt present on that violet wire. Now this is our problem. Because the ignition switch is bad, we're not getting power feed on that. We're not getting power feed on that green wire. So I'll just put this green probe on that green wire, and I'll look for earth. We got no earth. Look for power. We got no power coming in there. So that is our problem. Now while we have this probe hooked up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just feed 12 volt into that wire, and this car will start. So as soon as I put 12 volt, you'll hear the fuel pump going and all the lights on the dash will come on. So all I'm gonna do is just put power on that wire. If you can hear the fuel pump coming on, let it go, everything goes off. Now I'll just show you up here on the dash as well. Right now we only got the display kilometers showing up, and all I'm gonna do is, like I explained, I'm gonna put power on that green wire, and you watch there, see all the lights coming on, everything is coming on. Now if I put 12 volt in that wire and crank the engine, this car should start. All right, let's try that. All right, so I'm going to just feed 12 volt with my probe. Now I'm going to crank the engine, and there you go, the car starts. The car starts. As soon as I let the power go, the car stalls, the power cuts off. So basically that's the problem with most early 2000 BMW, the ignition switch. Now if you need to move your car, or if you are broken down on the on the road and you need to get to the mechanic or home, all you can do is you can jump this power from either of the red or the violet wire. You can jump the power and feed 12 volt into that green wire, and you can start the car and you can take it to your mechanic or home if you ever stuck there. But to fix this problem, we're going to need a new ignition switch. It's pretty easy to change, a couple of screws there. I'm not going to show you how to, but it's pretty easy. Now sometimes if you're lucky, you can wiggle this switch, and if you're lucky, everything will come back to life. Let's see if we can do that here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to wiggle this ignition switch and see if our ignition powers everything come on. So leave the key on ignition on position, and we'll just wait and see what what comes up on the dash. If everything is right, this should bring all the display on the dash. So I'm just gonna wiggle that like that, just wiggle the wiring, and there you go. Now it's gone again. So I'm just gonna wiggle the wiring and you can watch the dash. So I'm just gonna wiggle that ignition switch. There you go. There. As soon as I let it go, it goes off. Now it's staying on. Now sometimes if you're lucky, you can do that, and if it stays on, all the battery light, oil pressure light, everything is coming on. If you're lucky, this car will start and let you drive home. Now it's gone again. Let's try again. Yeah, there you go, the car starts. Let's switch it off again. So basically all I'm doing is just wiggling on this switch, on this wiring harness or the switch, and everything comes back to life.